This is the Star of the Seas, the newest, biggest cruise ship in the world. It is massive and it's packed with more to do than you'll ever fit into a week. And it's the most talked about new ship of the year. But does all that hype hold up at sea, or did Royal Caribbean just copy the icon and hope no one would notice? Let's break down the good, the bad, and the parts that really caught us off guard. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. The Star of the Seas is Royal Caribbean's newest megaship, and it's basically the Icon's twin. But once we were on board, things didn't play out exactly the same. There were some things that blew us away and others that felt off, and honestly, there were a few that might change how you think about this class of ship altogether. So in this review, I'll show you what stood out, what missed the mark, and what you need to know before spending big to sail it. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. The Star of the Seas is the second ship in Royal Caribbean's new Icon class. They are the biggest, boldest, expensive ships they have ever built. They clock in at over 250,000 gross tons with space for more than 7,000 passengers across an astonishing 20 decks. While it's technically a brand new ship, if you've sailed on the Icon of the Seas, the layout is about 95% identical. Same neighborhoods, same headline features, and the same massive scale. In other words, it is the same wild lineup with 8 neighborhoods, 7 pools, 6 water slides, and over 40 dining and bar venues. But it is not a total copy-paste job. The Star of the Seas comes with a few subtle changes, including a new entertainment lineup, some refreshed menus, and behind-the-scene tweaks that smooth out the rough edges the Icon was still working through in its early sailings. There were some pleasant surprises as well, including the updated Lincoln Park Supper Club and some changes in Surfside that just enhanced the experience. But while the layout may feel like deja vu, the experience is a different story altogether. Whether that ends up feeling like a dream or a disaster, well, that's what we wanted to find out. Sailing on the biggest ship in the world comes with a price, and it's not a small one. For a 7-night cruise on the Star of the Seas, interior rooms typically range from $3,000 to $5,000. Ocean view staterooms usually fall between $3,300 and $5,700, and balcony rooms tend to range from $3,500 to $6,000, depending on the itinerary and season. And if you want the full suite experience, including the Grove private pool deck, the coastal kitchen, and suite lounge and concierge access, you'll need to book a Sky Class suite. Those typically range from $12,000 to $16,000, and at the very top, Star Class suites can run anywhere from $20,000 to over $100,000 with full perks, private genie service, and just about everything included. It's a widespread, but one thing's clear, this is definitely not budget cruising. There are some things you expect to be great on a ship like this. Over-the-top water slides, massive pool decks, and family-friendly chaos at every turn. But I didn't expect to walk away thinking that entertainment might be the best part of the entire cruise. And not just the good for a ship entertainment, I mean genuinely great. The Aqua Show Torque was a major upgrade from what we saw on the Icon. It's the same venue and same concept, but this time the pacing hits harder, the stunts felt more purposeful, and the whole performance actually built towards something. It was still abstract, sure, but not in the what did I just watch kind of way, and instead it felt tight, intense, and complete. And then there's Soul, the new ice show in Absolute Zero, and this show is easily one of the biggest upgrades from the Icon. The show on the Icon felt like abstract modern art on skates, which was visually interesting but emotionally flat. But from the lighting to the music to the pacing, Soul is a better fit for the space and for the audience. The storyline is still loose. It is an ice show after all, not Hamlet, but it's entertaining, energetic, and worth seeing from start to finish. And then there was Back to the Future. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't skeptical of this show coming into this. As an 80s baby, Back to the Future is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I've seen it on Broadway, so I had high expectations and was prepared to be disappointed. But this wasn't a watered-down cruise version of a Broadway show. It was the real deal with clever set pieces, strong vocals, and enough energy to keep the crowd fully locked in for the full runtime. Yeah, it's still campy and fun, but it doesn't lean on nostalgia as a crutch. It earns every applause. But it wasn't just the big ticket shows that impressed. Music hall became a nightly staple for us. The live band nailed every set with a killer mix of 80s, 90s, and classic rock that never felt phoned in. And dueling pianos had the perfect blend of talent, humor, and crowd interaction that made it hard to walk past without stopping in to hear at least a song or two. But when we weren't soaking up the high energy of live music and sing-alongs, we found ourselves craving the exact opposite. And that's when we'd head to the Overlook. There's a moment in the evening right as the sun starts to dip and most passengers head off to dinner or evening shows when the Overlook transforms into something truly magical. The noise fades, the lighting softens, and you're left with a front row seat to the sky putting on its nightly masterpiece. You can sink into one of those cozy nooks, cocktail or coffee in hand, and just breathe. It's quiet, it's calm, and it may very well be my favorite space on any ship. Period. While we didn't go into this sailing with sky-high expectations for food or service, both exceeded what we experienced on the Icon. Venues opened on time, orders came out faster, and the crew just felt more in sync. From the main dining room to the casual lunch spots, there was less confusion, fewer delays, and a noticeable step up in quality across the board. And that's the real story here. The Star of the Seas doesn't try to reinvent what the Icon started, and it doesn't have to. What it does is refine the formula, smooth out the friction, and raise the bar just enough to remind you why Royal Caribbean still owns this lane. And if you want your cruise to run just as smoothly, it starts before you ever step on the ship, which is why we always book through Cruises It. They've saved us money, unlocked perks we didn't even know we qualified in, always make sure we don't end up like Frank, who forgot to make his final payment and showed up to the terminal wondering why his name wasn't on the list. Frank, buddy, you can't just show up to a cruise like it's open mic night. With their low price guarantee and actual humans who know cruising inside and out, Cruises It makes planning your trip easier and a whole lot less stressful. Click the link in the description below or give them a call using the number on the screen below and let them know that Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You will be glad you did. Every cruise has trade-offs, even on a ship this massive. And while our overall experience on the Star of the Seas was overwhelmingly positive, a few things stood out that felt underwhelming, especially for a ship this new and this height. Our Surfside Family Suite looked great in photos, but it didn't quite hold up in practice. The space felt bright and playful, but during the active hours of the day, it got quite noisy from the fun and excitement happening in the Surfside neighborhood below our cabin. So if you're in one of these Surfside rooms and you want to take a midday nap, you may want to bring earplugs if you're a light sleeper like I am. Despite the larger footprint of the suite, there was surprisingly little storage. If the whole family had been with us, we honestly would have needed to use the extra bedroom as a closet, and that's not how a suite designed for families should function. The lack of space wasn't just a cabin issue either. Several venues across the ship were bursting at the seams. Dueling Pianos was standing room only every night, and Spotlight Karaoke was the same. Even the Aqua Theater, which should feel expansive, felt undersized during big performances. And this was with just 5,100 passengers on board. When the ship's sailing at full capacity with up to 7,600 guests, it's hard to imagine how those crowds are going to be managed in this space. Another surprising miss was the cruise director. We didn't spot him until day 3, and that was the only time we did during the entire cruise. He had no presence before the shows, no send-offs afterward, and very little energy being injected into daily programming. On a ship this size, you need someone helping to connect the dots, but instead that role felt invisible. And then there's the casino. It was packed from open to close every single day. Finding an open slot machine or table was tough enough, but if you wanted to change it up, your seat would be gone in seconds. If you wanted to play next to a friend or spouse, good luck finding 2 spots next to each other. The space just doesn't match the demand, and it makes the whole experience feel more stressful than fun. Now, none of these issues were deal breakers, but they did stand out on a ship that gets so much else right. After wrapping up our Icon of the Seas cruise, I remember saying to my wife, this ship is a logistical miracle, but it's still figuring itself out. So going into the Star, I wasn't expecting something radically different. And let's be honest, this is the same blueprint. The layout is virtually identical. The venues, the neighborhoods, the water slides, the shows, and the food halls, it's all here again. But here's the thing. The Star felt like it came with the instruction manual the Icon didn't have. From embarkation to disembarkation, the entire operation just ran smoother. Venues opened on time, events didn't feel understaffed, and the crew seemed more confident or prepared and more in rhythm. We'd walk into a show and know exactly where to go. Lines moved faster, there were fewer awkward lags and "oh, I guess that's not working yet" moments. It was clear Royal Caribbean had been paying attention and learning. Because while the Icon had the dazzle of being first, the Star had something even more important: mastery. It's the difference between a grand opening and a business that's settled into its stride. One is exciting and full of promise, but still ironing out the kinks. The other has built its reputation on excellence. And to be honest, I appreciated that. Now, not everything was fixed. We've already talked about some of the pain points, but in the areas that matter most for the average cruiser, Star consistently delivered a more seamless experience. It didn't feel like Royal was still beta testing its biggest ship ever. It felt like they'd studied the playbook, made adjustments, and finally figured out how to run a floating city with more than 7,000 people with less friction. So no, it's not a brand new design. It doesn't reinvent anything, but it doesn't need to. It just proves that Royal Caribbean can learn from its biggest ideas, tighten the screws, and give cruisers a version of the Icon that's more dialed in. And in a world where sequel ships feel like lazy copy-paste jobs, this one showed real growth. So, who exactly is the Star of the Seas actually for? Well, it's not just for families, and it's not just for thrill seekers either. It's for people who want everything in one place and don't mind a little chaos and a whole lot of steps in the process. If your idea of a perfect vacation includes high energy shows, water slides that practically dare you to look down, a pool for every mood, and more dining options than you could possibly eat through in a week, this ship was built for you. It's also ideal for multi-generational families. There is something for everyone: splash zones and scavenger hunts for the little ones, Broadway level entertainment for adults, and enough food to keep your picky teen from complaining until at least day 6. And even though it's not a luxury line, if you book into a suite or spring for the upgraded dining, you'll find flashes of that high-end experience in between the belly flop contests and karaoke battles. But it's not for everyone. If you cruise to relax, unplug, and avoid crowds, this ship will test your limits. If you want quiet nights, intimate dinners, or an adults-only vibe, you're gonna feel outnumbered. And if your idea of fun doesn't include elevators full of toddlers and swim diapers, you might want to consider another line. The Star is unapologetically big, bold, and busy, and that's the point. It's not trying to be peaceful, it's trying to be unforgettable. So now the big question: would we sail the Star of the Seas again? And the answer? Without a doubt, yes. In fact, we're planning to again next year with the full family. This is still one of the most impressive cruise ships ever built. It's fun, it's massive, and it finally feels like Royal Caribbean has figured out how to run the Icon class the way it was meant to be. And here's the thing, we don't usually sail the same ship twice. With so many new ships launching and only so many vacation weeks to go around, we're always chasing the next experience. So the fact that we'd seriously consider coming back to the Star says a lot. It's not just impressive, it's one of those rare ships that earns a spot in the worth repeating category. And if we were planning a multi-generational family trip or cruising with first-timers who wanted to be blown away, well, the Star would be near the top of that list. Now, the good news? Royal Caribbean has somehow managed to raise the bar again without losing the magic that made the Icon such a hit. But the bad news? You're going to want to see for yourself. And that's why we filmed every day on board, from jaw-dropping thrills to quiet morning escapes, and shared it all on our second channel, Family at Sea Adventures. So if you want the full behind-the-scenes look at what it's actually like to sail the Star, you're not going to want to miss this. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.